Throughout history and around the world, self-building has been the predominant way that houses have been built. And until the 19th century in the UK, that was the same. So this, a typical picture postcard Cotswold village, all these houses were built around the people that lived in them, by the people who lived in them, to suit their lives with the materials that they had available at the time. And I suppose what we're keen to do is make more opportunities like this to make the picture postcards for the 21st century. So in the UK at the moment, only about 6 or 7% of our housing is self-built, which is a tiny fraction of what happens on the rest of the continent, where 30, 40, 50, even 60% of their housing is self-built. And I think there's a huge opportunity in the UK for us to be building at much more similar levels to the rest of Europe. I think that would be an exciting opportunity. I think we'd have better houses as a result. And there certainly seems to be the desire for that to happen. So what we're really keen to do is just to make that possible for people to do, is to meet that desire. Landowners seem really keen to offer their land in a different way rather than just selling out to big developers. And something like 75% of people, when they're surveyed, say they'd never want to build a new build speculative house anyway. The canal district of Amsterdam, which was built in the 16th and 17th century, I think is a fascinating example of historic self-build. And it's an absolute picture postcard. The city council, in order to raise funds, put in the canals, put in the sewers and the water, and sold off strip plots, and you could buy it by the metre. And then they set up design codes. And if you have a look at a typical Amsterdam facade, they had to keep a high degree of uniformity at the street level. The houses are quite cohesive, but then they had much more design freedom up at the roofscape, and you can see that really expressed with all these different roofs. And it's wonderful. It's kind of objectively wonderful. People love it. It's picture postcard architecture. And then you can see at Almere, also in the Netherlands, a recent example with almost exactly the same set of conditions, where people could buy plots and there was a set of rules, but quite a lot of freedom within those rules. And you get this lovely sort of controlled variety where people's lives, their own stories, their own desires, their own priorities are built into the houses, but there's a cohesiveness to it. And it provides this kind of rich, diverse community of architecture. I think that diversity of design is a wonderful thing, and it's sort of how what you've seen through self-build over the centuries is just that diversity, which we've just lost in contemporary speculative house building. It just becomes much more squeezed, narrow and generic.